She loved her Origin M50 Turbo more than life. Banged up, scratched, red and white paint slopped on to cover a hull that needed an integrity sweep, but there had been no time for any of that after Cassini, nor had she won enough credits yet for such repairs, not with having to pay for transport ships and her pit crew. But what of it? The power plant was sound, the thrusters new and top-notch. In a pinch, she doubted that any racer anywhere could match it. Certainly none of the other 24 challengers behind her, including Ghoul, could beat her in a straightaway, but the MCR had few straightaways. Hull integrity mattered. As her crew chief rattled off the final systems check in her ear, Daring pulled up the map for the first stage. It appeared with a bright blink to display row after row of rings winding their way through low orbit above Ellis 3. Daring studied the rings carefully, reminding herself of which ones were large, which were small, and where the cameras and timer buoys were located. All racers were required to stay within the invisible lane running through the rings. If a racer strayed outside, he or she would lose time. This first stage was both timed and awarded extra credits to first, second and third place. Having the pole position, then, gave her an advantage. But for how long? Daring leaned over in her seat and studied the course carefully. It was not unlike one stretch of the Goss Invitational, so she had ample experience with this kind of run. Her M50 was built for strenuous zigs and zags through tight spots. But how well would she fare later on, when the course got more deadly, more strenuous? From Ellis 3, the racers quantumed to Ellis 4, where the so-called Seahorse Shuffle took place. Then on to Ellis 5 and the Noble Endeavour. After that, it was through the first of 2 asteroid belts, a course called the Sorrow Sea, where hulls of previous races floated as obstacles. Then around the gas giant Walleye, where ships could be easily ripped apart by one foolish move. A longer stage followed, across the outer asteroid belt, formerly Ellis 11, and finally to Ellis 12. Then the race turned back towards the heart of the system to finish at Ellis 8. She had run this race before, but never as a true contender, and thus she had taken her time, flown each stage slowly and steady, like a marathon runner, to learn all the ins and outs. This time, though, the pressure was on. She held the pole position, the top spot. Everything was different now. The MCR starter's voice crackled over the comlink. Racers, prepare for launch. Daring closed the map, affirmed the standard agreement to MCR rules and regulations in unison with the other racers, strapped herself in, and gave a small prayer. She was not religious by any stretch, but figured it wouldn't hurt. The prayer calmed her nerves as the bay doors of the starting carrier opened to space. She could see Ellis 3 through the door. It was beautiful, green, its orbit peppered with corvettes and pleasure craft of the well-to-do who had come out to view the race firsthand. There would be plenty of spectators along the way, a lot of media, and Daring had to just put them all out of her mind. She focused on Zogat Ghoul's words. Speed is life, and looked back through one of her cockpit panels to try and get a glimpse of the Tavaran's upgraded Hornet. But he was too far back. All she could see was Yokondi Remesk's M50, with its garish gold and blue trim. She noticed that he was too close to her. By rule, there was a specified distance that racers had to maintain prior to launch, the privilege of the pole position. She gnashed her teeth and cursed beneath her breath. Someone was already violating rules. Hypatia Daring, you may launch. She didn't even wait for the spokesman to finish. Daring burst out the carrier bay door at top legal speed. Through a narrow channel flanked by media and spectators, Daring flew the ceremonial lap. The rest of the racers followed behind, releasing one after another, but maintaining their specified positions within the line. Ahead of her, the pacecraft sparkled with a flashing red light. Nervous energy spotted her brow with sweat. Her crew chief gave his final comments and instructions. She signed him off and focused on the course ahead of her. In her ear, the MCR starter counted down. 10, 9, 8. Daring thrust to the left, trying to keep directly behind the pacecraft. Yokondi Remesk was right on her 6, the nose of his racer dangerously close. Back off, Daring mouthed silently, wanting to flip on her comlink and tune to his frequency. It wasn't strictly against MCR rules to speak to other racers, but officials discouraged it, fearing that frequent conversation during the race could produce distractions that would lead to crashes and injuries. Besides, there was enough chatter going on between racers and their crews. Still, Daring wanted to open a channel and scream into Remisk's ear, "Get off my back." 5, 4, 3. Now, all the racers tightened as the pacer made the last turn to set them up toward the first rings. Daring gunned it a little herself, closing in on the pacer. She put herself now just a little to the right of it, to keep Remisk from rushing past her at the last minute. Daring's heart raced. Her hands shook on her joystick. She tried concentrating on the small object that grew and grew in her viewport. The first ring, its rotating light swirling around its virtual frame, signalling the beginning. 2, 1. The red lights on the pacer flashed green, and it fell to the left quickly, breaking formation. Daring pressed herself into her seat, gunned her thrusters, and blew through the first ring. The flashing lights of the rings caused her eyes to ache. They flew by her quickly, and she was concentrating on them too much, too worried about her time, her position in the line. She had fallen to 3rd place by count of the last timing ring. It had been her fault too, worrying so much about conserving fuel, letting some pilot with an overclocked Avenger take the inside lane. Her crew chief yelled at her for it. She ignored him. The little shit was right, of course, but he was an old academy friend of her father's, and she was in no mood to listen to him yell at her. Besides, she could overtake an Avenger at any time. The real focus of her recovery had to be Yokondi Remisk. The smarmy son of a bitch had forced her against the left wall of the tunnel they were speeding through. Her wing had actually broken the virtual plane, and the voice of the MCR caller came over the comm. 10 seconds added to your time. Damn. Remisk's press was not strictly against the rules since his ship had not touched hers, but it was certainly dirty pool and against the spirit of the competition. She had no way out of the pick and roll either. It was as if he and the Avenger pilot were in cahoots. That wouldn't surprise her in the least. She refocused and thrust her M50 forward, dipping beneath the Avenger and slipping past it on the low. It tried muscling her back, pointing its right wing down to mask her view, but Daring anticipated the move, shifted in kind, and kept her position and composure. Meanwhile, the Avenger pilot had lost his focus on the lane ahead of him and failed to notice the ring closing fast and to the left. Daring hit her thrusters hard and shifted left, at the last minute moving out of the Avenger's path. Daring took the turn and ring perfectly. The Avenger saw it too late, tried to adjust, and clipped the ring with its left wing. It broke the invisible plane of the tunnel and then overcompensated into a spin through the void. Eat that. She hoped that somewhere behind her, Ghoul was cheering. She could almost hear his resonant voice singing her praises. She liked the thought, but the most pressing concern now was right in front of her. Remisk had been pushing his craft at full speed the entire course. How was that possible, she wondered. Sure, he had customized his M50 like all the rest, removing everything extraneous for extra fuel and cooling equipment, but he must be running on fumes by now after boosting like that. There was no other explanation. He would have to burn out soon, and the sooner the better. She ignored the 3 other racers pressing hard at her 6. She took the next ring and the next, letting the strong inertia pull and propel her craft forward. That was the best way to avoid overheating. She had learned racing around Saturn. Release thrust on the turns, and let your craft drift at top speed into the vector. Then you had enough thrust to pick up the few seconds you might have lost on drift. This racing gig was a game of milliseconds, and each one counted. She moved up behind Remisk, taking advantage of the last straightaway before the final turns through the ultimate 3 rings. There was not much time left, and she had to make her move now. She tried shifting up and over his craft. He moved to block her. She shifted down. He moved again, in perfect unison, their ships equal size. She shifted left, right, and each time Remisk moved to counter. How is he doing this? He was a great racer, there was no doubt of that. He was strong, athletic, and cool-headed. Remisk had not gotten where he was on the circuit without being smart and precise, but his moves, his instincts were almost supernatural, as if his senses were enhanced. But that was impossible. Every racer went through a rigorous medical exam to ensure that no drugs had been introduced before the race, and further testing would be conducted along the way to ensure none had been taken after the first stage. Remisk was just that good. Then I have to be better. She pushed her engine to its limit, exceeding safe levels, much to the ire of her crew chief. He implored her to back off, take second or third place, don't risk blowing your ship so soon for so little reward. Little reward my ass. She had taken the pole position and she was going to let everyone know that it was not some fluke, that Hypatia Daring was here to stay. She wouldn't give her fath the media grist for their mill. She barrel-rolled, letting the rotation of her M50 spiral her forward like a screw. Remisk, fearing that he would be clipped himself, shifted ever so slightly to his left, and Daring pounced. She pulled alongside him, letting her craft settle. She punched her thrusters again, feeling them wail their discontent through her arms and hands. Her stick was shaking, her heat warnings blaring. She could feel it all through her body, and there was, in all the galaxy, no feeling like it. It was something her father had forgotten. He was a good fighter pilot himself, or at least he was in his youth, but he had spent too much of his life in slow giants like destroyers, cruisers, and battleships. He had forgotten what it was like to feel flesh tingle as strong G-forces threatened to rip your skin from its bones. Ghoul understood it. Remisk most certainly did. And even that sorry son of a bitch Motak understood the ecstatic feeling of sheer speed. She pulled ahead. She took the next ring flawlessly, shifting against inertia and rolling through the next ring, which appeared immediately after the last. The final ring loomed large in the distance. Her crew chief, his attitude suddenly changed, barked, "Go! Go!" into her ear. She smiled. She'd made the right decision. She most definitely deserved to be here racing among the greats. Remisk pulled up above her, obviously giving her first place. She kept her course forward and strong, letting her warning systems holler. She giggled like a child, accepting praise from her chief. The flashing lights of the last ring did not make her weak or sick this time. She welcomed them happily. Then a shadow came up over her, darkening her cockpit. It was Remisk, his M50 finding new life and overtaking her ship. In her joy, Daring had not realised that her thumb had lightened its pressure on her throttle, and she had slowed just slightly. Slowed enough for Remisk to swing his craft up and over her hull and plant itself, with its main thrusters, right in front of her cockpit. Daring tried keeping her speed and course, but Remisk kicked his boost and threw a gout of yellow fire across her cockpit windows. Daring rolled left. It was a serious mistake. She tried regaining her position, pressed her thumb deeply into the throttle, but it was too late. Yakondi Remisk passed through the final ring in first place. The Avenger and one other racer took second and third, while Daring, her ship rolling uncontrollably through the last ring, barely finished fourth.
You should get yourself some NordVPN. You can go to nordvpn.com/BoredGamer or use the links down below. If you want a VPN to help you with accessibility, security, and or privacy on the internet, then NordVPN has got all of that. And it's on a huge discount if you use my links. Oh, click those links. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For December, we are giving away a Kruger Intergalactic L22 Alpha Wolf. Just comment on any video made during December 2025 to be in for a chance of winning that. It does also come with lifetime insurance and a game package. All you need to play Star Citizen and start your journey with a powerful light fighter or add it to your fleet of ships. I don't know who's going to win. It's kind of random. Something that's not random is your support of this channel. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. And if you would like to like, share, subscribe, that really helps. Commenting helps as well. Also, you might consider clicking the join button under my videos or becoming a Patreon. There's some exclusive videos there. There's some emotes. It helps out the channel more. We are going to be playing a load more Star Citizen. Thank you very much for watching. You have a great December. Tell me all the things in the comments below.